We got this from Fox News. Trump to visit Alligator Alcatraz for grand opening of swampy Everglades detention center for illegal aliens.
I want to see him with big scissors in the red.
That's exactly
doing the grand opening.
Yes. I hope there's alligators.
Wait,
alligators in top hats.
Actually, I disagree. I think it should be the ceremonial rolling out the last chain link fence.
There you go. Okay.
Something because it's not open to the public now. It's sealed off.
True.
Or the final brick.
A photo of AOC crying outside of it.
That's true. Can
Someone Photoshop that.
we convince her to go and do that?
I'm sure it probably doesn't need much convincing.
Where is Alligator Alcatraz?
It's near
Disney.
It's
That'd be hilarious.
no.
Very
but
close to Disney.
I like the way you're thinking. No, it's near Miami. It's a little north of Miami.
Incredible.
Oh, wow. So that's way down there.
Yeah, look at this.
Oh, is it by Alligator Alley?
Look
That's
at
Alligator
this.
Alley cutting
Big
across.
spot here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, this is how crazy. Like the Everglades is literal nothing.
Yeah, dude.
And you know what really bothers me the most is that you could put a shopping mall right there, a Walmart right
Be a
there.
floating shopping mall.
There could be a Dave and Buster's right over here. You know what's going on?
All this
Look,
stuff.
you just
would
zoom
have
in, and what is
Zoom
that?
in. Are you gonna find
Look at what is this?
some alligators?
Some shrubs. Nobody
to-
needs
that's
that.
all wet.
Do you remember in the 90s, I think, a plane crashed into the Everglades?
Yeah.
Yeah, horrifying. That's
Yeah.
like the worst way. Like your plane crashes into snakes and alligators.
Yeah.
Look at this. It's just nothing here. It's just reeds and swamp.
Yep.
Have
'Cause
you
I used to live in the Redlands in Miami, which for those that aren't familiar, it's like, where is it? Where's Homestead? There it is. So Redland. So I had a house right down here briefly for about a year when I was working at Fusion. And it's like, seriously, we just get in the car and drive for 5 minutes. And then it's just literally just shrubs, dirt, and alligators.
Yep.
chilling.
I think Homestead is technically included in parts of it are included in the Everglades.
Really? Mm-hmm. That's where Obama was locking up all them kids. Homestead was where they had the immigrant child detention center. Really? And it was like a big deal, and Obama made it, and then Trump inherited it, and they were like, oh no, Trump, why are you locking up kids? And he was like, I am? Oh, I didn't realize that Obama was doing it. I am?
Well, I mean, like I said, I don't think this is a bad thing. I like the idea of having more prisons for criminals because it's
The worst scumbags.
Yeah, it
Trump
seems
said.
that there has been a almost a moratorium on imprisoning people, and I think that should end if you're here, particularly if you're illegal.
What?
Whoa.
I just looked up where it is. Let me zoom out. Where is this thing? Yo, it's like right in the middle.
Oh, nice.
There it is.
Perfect.
Apparently, it's like right over here by the airport.
There you go. That's actually
By
what
the
that is.
airport,
What it is.
so they
yeah.
can just
Right.
bust them right up there. Oh, wow.
What?
That is actually
that
what it
true?
is.
Like a level in GoldenEye.
I've seen pictures of the strip. Yeah.
Golden Eye. the
Or
landing strip
Fallout.
is in the Alligator Alcatraz stuff?
I think that's where they built Alligator Alcatraz.
Right. I looked it up, and this is what it told me where it's at.
Yeah.
That would make. Can you Google Earth? Can we like street view this thing? Let's go.
Can we set a lot down there for video?
Oh, nice.
Oh wow.
We're going to Alligator Alcatraz.
You know, that doesn't look nearly as swampy as I expected.
I think there has to be some solid land where they're building, probably.
Right.
No, we should
Makes
just
sense.
push them out of a helicopter.
But they should make swamps like Walt Disney did, but fill them with alligators.
Okay.
All right, here we
Put them in
go.
a life raft.
So I think this must be like where they're doing it. It is not as swampy as you'd think. Yep, there you go.
Like,
What is that?
is that Bigfoot?
What is that?
It's like some monster truck.
Gravedigger.
Awesome.
Oh, there you go.
I love Florida.
Yeah.
Alligator. Look at that. Alligator Alcatraz. And you got Ducey showing up.
It's official.
He's on vacation. He's retired to Florida, and now he just walks around Florida for Fox News. I'm not kidding. That's what he does. He's just walking around. I watch Fox and Friends every morning. And,
I like Fox Trends.
yeah. You can't have a morning without your friends.
No, you can't. But I mean, like I said, this is a good thing. Ron DeSantis down there, he'll be taking care of the criminals.
I like that Alcatraz is just back, like in the collective consciousness. Just the word Alcatraz is back.
It is. There was rumors that they were talking about reopening Alcatraz, but
Right.
I think they decided
That was a big
it's-
story. Trump said he wanted to do it.
Yeah.
Didn't they decide that it's going to be too much work or something like that? Or
Yeah, so they just might as well just build a new one in the middle of
Agreed.
Gators.
And also, I just literally don't care about anything the left says anymore. When what their concern about government and all of this stuff, I'm like, you've really lost all of the arguments entirely. Like, a society needs to be able to enforce its laws and its worldview and maintain what it wants. And so what ends up happening is we have these blasphemy laws and you can't swear in public. And people are like, dude, it's not that big a deal, right? And over every decade, we slowly erode the moral foundation of the country. Any insinuation that we would in any way, even the tiniest degree, go back to enforcing what we morally believe in is called fascism or authoritarianism. And it's like, dude, you're literally sterilizing children, okay? We got to go back. We're going to start telling people you can't do that weird stuff in public. You can't be sterilizing kids.
How many leftist mayors released prisoners at the beginning of lockdowns? I mean, New York City, they just opened the doors and are like, we don't need you in here.
I wonder if we've gotten to the event horizon of social decay, the point where you can't turn it around.
It does feel like that in certain places.
I think some states,
New York,
states, I think, can turn it around still, thanks to states' rights. But there's states that they're picking up the slack for those states that aren't turning.
And I will say, New York's been there before. In the 70s, it was horrible there. Just a totally terrible place. But it seems to be getting back to that area, with the crime.
The ebb and the flow. I guess it depends on who's running it.
Yeah, I mean, they're in for a rough ride if they get
you've got
madman.
After the whole defund the police thing, and then if Mamdani does become the mayor and he actually institutes his own policies that he's proposing, there will be a significant increase in crime. It's already worse than it was 10 years ago, and he's back on the defund the police stuff. I think there's something like 40% of police are saying I'm going to retire or I'm going to quit if Mamdani gets elected.
It's Sodom and Gomorrah. Like the way his plan, the way he's like, we're gonna have prostitutes everywhere. All the criminals we're gonna release.
Hookers and crime.
There's not gonna be any cops.
There will be a rise in vigilantes.
Yeah.
In that city, in cities like it.
Oh, and they'll definitely put those guys in jail.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. That's why they'll wear
because
masks
no one's
and stuff,
above the
but they'll
law.
get them.
Because the criminals don't know any better, but you, as a normal citizen that goes out to try and stop them, you know better.
Yep.
So,
you have morals,
which is typical of. I mean, Solzhenitsyn. That's where I got that idea from. Solzhenitsyn would talk about the Soviet Union that way. You're expected as a good communist or good citizen, you're expected to know better. But the criminal, well, he wouldn't know better. You have to take care of him, which is the same kind of maternalism that you're seeing in the United States now, which is running rampant and actually causing so many problems in the U.S.
They outsourced tyranny so well during lockdowns that your neighbors just became tyrants overnight, and we're happy to to tell on you.
So yeah, I mean, yes, they did, and I think that is something that more people. I mean, I'm glad that people noticed and that they're seeing that, because that is exactly how the Soviet Union kept people in line. It's exactly how East Germany kept people in line. I heard stories of when the Berlin Wall fell, you could go and talk to, if you were arrested, you could actually go and find out who turned you in. And your stories about people that were living with people, and this woman that was like, oh, I'm going to go find, she spent 5 years or whatever in prison or whatever. She went down to find out, and it was the dude that she was still currently living with. Oh, like she had to go home and be in the same apartment with him, and he turned her in, and she spent, she was, I don't know if she was tortured or whatever, but she spent years in prison because of it. He's the one that turned her in. So the idea that people won't decide to embrace the authoritarian impulse, and it gets so bad, it's just like, oh, if I send this person in, I'll get an extra room in my house, or if I turn my neighbor in, or someone that I work with, I might get their job. Those kind of petty things are what people start doing. And that's why the fabric of society just completely falls apart. We talk about the United States, how, we want a high trust society, and that's what actually produces a good life for your society, is when you know your neighbors aren't going to kick in your door or take your stuff if you forget to lock something up or whatever. If you have a society that might turn you into the government, all rules are off. The whole society, nobody trusts anyone, and it destroys the cohesion, not only, but it also destroys the kind of happiness that people have, because you can't feel content and safe that if you're always looking over your shoulder.
There was a restaurant nearby that went out of business, and we were surprised because we ordered from them, every couple of months. We every Friday we order food for everybody, and we try and vary out what's going to be. They went out of business. I was talking to locals why, and they said they couldn't find anybody to work there. And I was like, is that a joke? No, they couldn't find anybody to cook. They couldn't find anybody to serve, so they just shut down. They were actually doing really well. And I think when we talk about the event horizon of social collapse, young people are so entitled and lazy. And I don't mean every single young person. I'm saying that there is such a high density of entitled, lazy, I don't know, what's the right word? What's the word for like lacking passion, devoid of passion? That
complacency.
I don't know that's complacency. They're
uninspired,
depressed, and uninspired. So what ends up happening now is this dependency has been created by the establishment over the past 30 years, where it's like, now you've got no choice but to import the third world because at least they'll do the jobs. Instead, we could have taught our young people the value of hard work and taking pride in their jobs, whatever those jobs may be. But instead, especially me growing up, the insinuation was always, you want to end up being a garbage man? Huh? You want to be a cook? You better not. And it's like, okay, geez, I won't. And now millennials are like, I ain't doing that. It's disrespectful or it's dishonorable.
That's what the people who were studying the population collapse with the mice, when it got to the edge of the civilization collapse. Mouse Utopia, and the beautiful ones, they would call them, when they would get to a certain point where it's about to collapse and the mothers are eating their young. Like mice would all of a sudden become homosexual, and then there'd be these mice who would just not go anywhere and just groom themselves, which I think of as like the rise in influencers that we have today, right? And I mean, there's people who be like, you can't look at mice as a way to study humans, but they were looking at the way the civilization was collapsing every time, and it's insane.
When they would take mice that had what they call, behavioral sync. Yes. And they would put them into a normal mouse society. They would not correct their behavior. They would spread it.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, that's bad.
And those mice, we call them, they were the colloquial name of those mice experiencing behavioral sync were liberals.
That's right.
They were liberal mice.
Mom Donnie was his name. Yeah.
Mom Donnie was one of the leaders.
Right.
It's worth noting that the idea that, that kind of attitude, whether it be in something like mice or a society, that kind of attitude does spread, and it's why you see people on the left behaving the way they do today. Because 25, 30 years ago, the left that we have today was not the same left. It was very different. The number of people that would have entertained socialist ideas or called themselves socialist openly, like they were vanishingly few, and nowadays. It's not.
Left of the 90s are Trump and RFK Jr.
Sort of, yeah, And nowadays it's all the rage, to at least in the urban areas and cities. And I think that part of why you see this stuff is because of cities, because of the way life in cities is now, because it's so expensive, and it's, if you have debt from school and you can't find a job, I mean, it's got to be a nightmare. So it makes sense for people to be unhappy, and unhappy people want to change their situation. And if they have nothing, maybe tearing everything down is fine, because maybe I'll have something then. Or at the very least, all these people that have stuff won't have stuff, just like I don't have stuff. And so there's just all these terrible, terrible human impulses that get they get amplified, and people really latch onto them. And when you have that kind of society.
Nihilism breeds violence.
And
we saw it in the Summer of Love.
Absolutely.
People stopped caring about themselves. They had meaninglessness, and their only meaning was to destroy, like you're saying, tear everything down.
I saw somebody speaking in South Africa recently. I'm a little bit afraid of this, but I saw someone speaking in South Africa recently saying that like the idea that everyone had to take from the white people was the wrong idea. No one ever came to South Africans, at least the ones who lived in South Africa after the ANC took over, and said to them, hey, you can go and build a bigger country, build a better country. They just said, oh, I must take it from the white people, I must take it from all of the British and the Indians, the Malays who also live in South Africa, because they have and I have nothing. No one ever went to them and told them, build more, make South Africa bigger, make it stronger, add to it. And I think that's what people need to be told. They can. Like Tim says, I was told not to do these jobs and stuff in high school, and like I did both. I went to school and got my academic stuff. You're welcome, mom and dad. Thank you for bringing me to America. But beyond that, they like Tim said, I've seen so many kids that just don't want to do anything. But there's no hope. They have, but like I don't know what to tell them. But you have to work without hope. I had a little bit of hope when I was young too. But anyways.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.